Alright, Brian, so we're going to go and go over some of the anatomy of a smart air box and also some of the common things you're going to be dealing with. So let's go ahead and do it. So you're going to need a flathead screwdriver to take these screws out on the face. The lock, I don't know if you want to buzz these all off and put your own locks on, otherwise I can look, if you give me all the serial numbers, I can look them up and get you the keys. So take that off. We'll take the face off. What you want to do is gently, there's two cables that are going to be hooked up to the face. One's to the keypad, we'll pull that off, and then one is hooked up to the LCD. This guy you can leave, this light you can keep hooked up, and you just move this off to the side. Now the main components of the smart air, obviously you have the two valves, inflate valve, deflate valve. I think in your unit the valves look exactly like this one, so this valve is actually over here as well. And then you have the circuit board. The circuit board has a processor, which is a square, and then here's the EEPROM, which we're going to be replacing. There's a pressure sensor here, and there's a couple of relay switches that control power on and off the valves here. So anyway, let's go ahead and let's take a valve apart, because that's going to be your most common thing you're going to be dealing with. You're going to want find my ratchet here, socket with a 14 millimeter socket. Go ahead and loosen that up. Take that apart. Now I think, like I said, I think both of yours are the same valve, but if you do have one like this, what you're going to also need is a deep well socket. It's a 30 millimeter big one to actually pull that valve apart, but I think yours is just like this. So why don't we pause it here and I'll take these screws out. Alright, I'm just removing the last screw here. Alright, so they're all loose. You want to take your finger, hold it underneath this, because there's a plunger on the top part of the valve. You can see when we pull this off that this actually engages the diaphragm. There's a spring in here, you don't want to lose that. Just set this aside. Now typically these valves get gummed up over time, and what I'll do is I'll take some denatured alcohol and a Q-tip, and let me pull the diaphragm out here. Here's the diaphragm, and what I'll take is I'll just dip this in denatured alcohol and I'll wipe this thing down really good. This one's actually in really good shape. And I'll take a Q-tip and I'll actually go inside the valve and just get all the contaminants out, because anything loose in there is going to actually probably mess with the diaphragm and cause a leak and so forth. So you want to make sure you get that all real clean. And when you replace it, you just basically drop this in here with a penny on the top. The bottom is a little pivot point. You want to make sure the penny part's on top. You'll also want to make sure that when you're putting this in here, that this little O-ring is in place. If you don't put that on, it's going to leak. The other thing I want to show you too is a common problem that I know you guys have is when you pull off the supply pressure, the pressure from the tire backflows in and actually pushes the diaphragm back into the chamber. It gets kind of mushed in here like something like this, and then you have all kinds of problems. So the way to resolve that is basically you just pull it out. A lot of times it's malleable enough you can straighten it out and it'll be fine. Otherwise, I'll send you a whole bunch of valves that you can get parts out of that you can actually just replace that diaphragm if you need to. Alright, so we're going to put this back together. Back in here. It's just a matter of screwing this up and putting the coil back on. The coils, when I took these apart, you want to make sure you keep them separate when you remove them. This one happened to be the inflate one. This was the deflate one. You want to keep them separate, because if you mix them up, you're going to be deflating when you want to inflate and inflating when you want to deflate. So you want to make sure you keep them apart when you remove them. So I'll put this one out here, and this guy, we'll pretend we screw that all up for the sake of time. Let's throw this back on, and you put the washer back on, and try not to drop too many of them, and you just basically screw this tight and make sure it's parallel with the exhaust tube here. Alright, then let's go to the EEPROM. What you want to do to get that out is basically take a tool like this. You can have, I've used bent screwdrivers, anything to get an angle, because what you want to do is when you go in here and remove this EEPROM, and the EEPROM, by the way, is the chip that has a white piece of tape over it. It's the topmost chip here. It's got a little white stripe on it. You see there's a little notch that's on this, facing this way. What you want to do is you get underneath there, in between the chip and the socket, and you just gently wiggle it, and you can see it starting to come out. Once you get it started, you should be able to go in there with your fingers, excuse me, and pull this right out. You want to make sure that when you deal with this, that the pins are nice and straight. You can see these are still nice and straight. And then the chips that I'm going to be giving you, you basically do the reverse. You take the EEPROM, and if you look down in the socket there, you can see the little shiny pinholes. That's where the EEPROM is going to be seated. So you want to line up each one of these pins in those little individual sockets. So let's go ahead and do that. You just line them up. This takes a little practice. It's, you know, if you have big hands, it's kind of hard, but you just get it started like that, if you can see that, and then you gently just give it a little push until it doesn't go anymore, and you can see it's in. And again, you want to make sure that the notch is in towards the processor. And that's that. The other thing that you might want to, that might wear out on you, you might have an LCD that burns out. I can get you part numbers for these, but it's kind of tricky because you're gonna have to solder this header on. They come without that, and I can set, you know, if you end up having that problem, I can shoot a video on how to do that. The keypads, which actually look like this without the printed sticker on top, those just go right in here, and there's just a screw and a nut and lock washer that it's fastened with. These on this bottom side here towards the lock, you want to take up pliers and break them off so that when you go to put the face back on, this stem doesn't stick out and actually hit the frame here. That's one little trick. And then this overlay is just basically a sticker, and I'll send those to you too. You just pull the old one off, put the new one on, rub it on, and you're good to go. And I think that's the majority of what you're going to have to deal with. If you have any other questions, just give me a holler out. You have my email address. Otherwise, I'm going to go ahead and put this on YouTube and send it to you, Brian. All right, thanks.